Started out about 5 years ago with an idea that a student brought to me. Hey, why don't we start a Model United Nations program at GRU for our college students? And I said, okay, that sounds great, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So I had to start researching and getting into the literature on what that involves, and found that it looked like a very good idea for student engagement inside the classroom. So briefly, what it involves at the college level, and I'll break it down in a minute to the more primary and secondary education level, but I just wanted to give you how I got there from where I began, is it involves pretty much a mock simulation of the United Nations. So students come together, you investigate the member state, whatever country you're assigned, you immerse yourself in that country's culture, economics, political system. You give speeches on certain positions for topics that whatever committee you're in at the United Nations would investigate. You write position papers about that. And then the funnest part of the whole part for the college program, as well as for the middle school program, which I've started here at GRU, is the mock simulation, where you get together and actually simulate the dialogue and negotiation process at the United Nations in a very formal setting. Like, everybody has to wear suits, it's really formal. You have placards, name tags, all that kind of stuff, so it's really exciting. So we've been doing that for about 5 years now at Georgia Regents University, and every spring we take about 20 students average to New York City to compete in the International Model United Nations Conference, where they do this for 5 days with 5,000 international students. So I designed a survey experiment with a couple co-authors to see, well, how is this going to affect student engagement? How is this going to affect, this is again at the college level still, but I'll get to the other parts in a minute. How is this going to affect academic skill set, academic integration, academic confidence, social confidence inside the classroom? Because we postulated that this type of active learning would greatly increase both academic, your study skill habits, and social integration. How much confidence do you have with your peers inside and outside of the classroom, which at the college level at least suggests the higher both of those indicators are, the better you're going to do in school, period. The higher your GPA is going to be. In college, it means the more likely you're going to progress towards graduation. And I assume, and Dr. Walker and I are starting studies now at the middle school level, that it's going to work that way in middle school as well, increased grades, as well as making sure students stay in college. In middle school towards graduation, and that they go to college. I don't want to bore you too much, but I do want to show you a little bit of stats so that you just don't take my word for it. This is again on our 5 years of data that we've collected. Can everybody see that all right? Thanks. So we ran two types of data analysis: group data and individual pre-test, post-test data for our 5 years of doing this. And we've had about 65 students participate in the Model United Nations in one time. We've had about 30 participate multiple times after that, but we kept the data analysis to just those that have participated one time. So I don't think everybody can see this, I'm sorry, but these are the academic integration skills that we measured for: writing, public speaking, negotiation, and most importantly in my mind is self-confidence and growth. And then we broke that down into different types: general writing, technical writing, so on, so on, so on. And then in general, how students improved. And you can see that we have number of students seeing improvement out of a total N of 64 in each of these areas. Some of these are very high rates of self-reported improvement, how much they believe through self-assessment that they've improved in these areas because of the Model United Nations. So you see we have 86% in some of these, low in others at 23%. But again, you like seeing any type of improvement whatsoever, so some of these results make us very happy. This has been published, and we have another piece now that I'm happy to distribute to anybody. If you want to just email me, I'll give you those links. And all the websites that I show you today, if you just want to email me rather than try to write everything down frantically, I'll provide those to you as well. My email is calbert@gru.edu. Calbert@gru.edu. This is our individual t-test, paired t-test, pre-test, post-test, and we wanted to check for reliability and all that to see if we were really measuring what we thought we were measuring in students. And we have a couple of other indicators here that were done on a pre-test the first day of class and then the last day of the program to really test, based on questionnaires, how they really improved in each of these areas based on their perception, which is what the first data measured. And you have here ability to think critically, ability to work on a team, blah, blah, blah. Complete skill sets, that's what is important. You can see the Carmel Alpha, which just means can we be relied, that this is what we measured, is a 0.85. Everything went up significantly, pre-test to post-test, from 139 points total to 175 points total. So their academic integration greatly improved at the group level. This is a group level analysis. This is the individual level analysis. So you can see pre-test to post, every single indicator went up. So I got very excited at the possibilities of the Model United Nations because it clearly demonstrates that this type of active learning, this type of student engagement greatly influenced academic and social integration within the college environment. You can see here something that never happens for stats people, if you're familiar with statistics at all in publications. My significance is 100% all the way through. I did not manipulate the data. On every level, which I'm not good at stats, so maybe I did something wrong. But eventually, what that made me think about was, could these results be replicated at the middle school and high school level? And I said, well, this is something worth trying. So my team and I, my Model United Nations college students, the Department of Political Science, started to want to host a junior Model United Nations on campus, starting with the middle school students, frankly because I thought if I messed up and did horribly, that none of them would be too tortured for the rest of their lives if it was a terrible experience. I didn't want to start with the high school level yet. So we're doing the Model School United Nations now. We'll move to a high school eventually, once I work all the kinks out in the middle school level. So we did our first middle school junior Model United Nations this past October. It was a pretty good success. I sent out emails to every single principal in the Tri-County area. I heard back from 7. 5 participated with about 50 students. This year I'm reaching out to all social studies teachers as well as the principals to make sure I have a direct, actually my student assistants will be reaching out to all the social studies teachers. So if you're in a school right now that's middle school, be looking for an email. So we ran the simulation this past October. We did a post-test analysis, and again, the same type of results revealed themselves from the middle school. And so I was like, wow, this is something that we really need to get social studies teachers on board with, and to see how can we improve middle school and high school education through simulations inside the classroom. And look at the effect, look at the experience that students will have out of this. They get to immerse themselves in another country's culture, right? I mean, that's hands-on integration, getting outside the realm of American parochialism. But you want your students obviously to know America's history and American social studies, but in the globalized world, it's also important to know the global aspect, especially with everything going on in international affairs today. You get to teach your students at the middle school and high school level, and we're building a curriculum now for all of this. Dr. Walker in the College of Education, in one of his classes, is building a hands-on curriculum with like 10 chapters to help teachers so they don't have to do that much work on top of it to integrate this into the classrooms themselves. So we're just going to give it to you and say, please use it and come to the conference and get a free t-shirt. It's not free, you pay. But your students, it depends on if you're in middle school or high school, but at middle school level, you're expected to give speeches, you're expected to pass a resolution, engaged at the Model United Nations in the General Assembly, which is one of the main committees at the United Nations. So you're expected to stand up in front of 50 people. Hopefully this year we'll get 75 or 100 students. At the high school level, you also write position papers. So how would your country actually respond to several topics that we provide for you? We give you the background guide, we give you the topics, topic guides, all that kind of stuff. All you have to do is just implement it in the classroom as a part of your curriculum, which we'll show you how to do, and I'll give you a little bit of hints and suggestions today. Then you have what we call like formal and informal debates. So when we break inside the United Nations simulation, you go around and negotiate and you try to stay in character the entire time, you get points from that, right? So if you're staying in character and you're arguing for what your country would actually argue for, you get points, and of course we give out lots of rewards at the end of the conference as an incentive for students to do well. So example, right now at the college level, we're Palestine, which is a member state, but a non-voting member state of the United Nations. So obviously, when we go to New York City, we have to stay in character. So the Palestinians will not go to the Israeli delegations and say, hey, buddy, let's write a treaty with one another and hang out and everything. That's not staying in character, right? So I've literally instructed my students, like, if they see the Israeli delegation typing up a resolution to go and slam the laptop down and just walk away, just like that. Palestine, what's up? Like, pick it up, right? So you want your students to stay in character. I think that's an important lesson at the middle school and high school level as well, to teach them this type of professionalism, to teach them how to stay in character, to teach them how to give speeches from another's perspective, to teach them how to write a position paper from another's perspective. I mean, that's persuasive writing at its best when you go outside of your own perspective. And those are, am I missing anything from the points of the Model United Nations? So that's how, or the types of active learning that you integrate inside the classroom. And as I said, we're building the curriculum now, and it should be ready this summer, and we'll place it online under one of Dr. Walker's sites. So what I'm going to do now for the rest of the 5 hours I have is just show you some simple websites of how to integrate primary text about the United Nations into a curriculum. So we'll start with the Library of Congress. Then we'll start with the actual United Nations website and show how you can research what are called United Nations resolutions. Those are as binding